Hello and welcome. My name is Barry Canty. I am SVP of Marketing here at IBEX, and I want to thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Our topic today is how a great employee experience boosts contact center performance, a conversation that will cover some of the many ways employee experience, or EX, impacts CX. I'm delighted to have two veterans of the contact center industry with me today. First up from IBEX is Bridgett Hart. Bridgett is our Senior Director of HR, Communications, and Change Management. How you doing today, Bridgett?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Excited for the conversation. Next up, also from IBEX, is Jack Whitt. Jack is our Senior Director of Operations. Hey, Jack.
Hello, how are you today?
Doing well, doing well. For those of you attending your first IBEX webinar, IBEX is a tech-driven BPO delivering CX solutions to many of the world's top brands. We operate onshore, nearshore, and offshore with 34 contact centers and over 30,000 CX professionals. A little bit of housekeeping before we jump in. We encourage you to submit questions throughout the presentation. Don't just wait to the end. We will have Q&A at the end of the webinar. We also had some questions that came in before the webinar, so we'll try to answer those as well. And also the recording will be shared with every registrant, so you can send the link to your colleagues or view it again. Now, Bridgett, let's go ahead and jump in, and I'll start with you. First topic of discussion is the importance of the agent experience and how that drives CX results. Now, as we know, employee experience has not always been important at many BPOs, but at IBEX, we've obviously emphasized it throughout our history. And I think post-COVID, there is a stronger connection between EX and CX. And according to a recent Salesforce report, organizations that focus on EX, they tend to drive revenue 1.8 times faster than those who don't. So in terms of engagement and performance, what are some programs that you recommend our buyers out there focus on in terms of their BPO partners?
Well, it's really important to choose a partner that you align with culturally. So making sure that important things are being addressed in the culture, like diversity, equity, inclusion, health and wellness, especially lately mental health. That's really top of mind for everybody after the pandemic. Philanthropy has been really big for us, actually. And I know that's surprising to some people, but these generations that are in the workforce today are really looking for a way to connect. And since you don't have that traditional on-site work only, the connection is something people are really striving for. So making sure you offer that with internal outreach and external outreach, that you're giving people the opportunity to connect to their community, to make a difference, to volunteer. Those things are really important to these new generations, Gen Z, particularly the millennials, all of that. And then finally, one thing that stands out to me is big ticket events. So people like to have fun and enjoy their work. You know, things can be really monotonous and the days can be hard and difficult and stressful, and people are dealing with a variety of things with mental health. So making sure you incorporate that fun into the day is really important. You can do that through customer service week celebrations, through rewards and recognition, service awards, performance awards, making sure that there are contests and competitions, and just driving in a whole atmosphere where you're taking a comprehensive look at what people need and giving it to them throughout the year.
Thanks so much for that, Bridgett. And Jack, just to kind of bring you into the conversation a little bit, earlier we spoke about DE&I and its importance. Wondering if it would be possible for you to give our viewers who are buyers of BPO services an idea of some of the things they should be looking for in terms of their BPO provider when it comes to their DE&I programs.
Yeah, great question. And I think it starts with Bridgett and her team. To have a team like hers in your organization to kind of lead the way and drive these programs, to make sure we're not forgetting about these things. You know, we feel like we're doing all the right things on site, but there's so many moving pieces for a site and a site leader, you know, to be doing every day for performance and for clients. And, you know, so it's easy to let something like this, you know, not be forefront. So when a team like Bridgett kind of guides you, they come up with these awesome ideas. It really takes a lot of pressure off of us as site leaders to be able to make sure that we're including everybody, that we're getting everybody engaged and involved, and they can see exactly what we really stand for. So I would start there. As far as the checklist is concerned, I think it starts with a team like Bridgett's to help lead away.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Bridgett? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I do think that it's important to note that when you have a team like this, communication with the site leaders is paramount. It's everything. So we can make up activities and roll out initiatives via email or make big flyers and posters every day if we want to. But in order for these things to work and to feel genuine and authentic, you have to have buy-in from leaders. So my partnership and my team's partnership with site leaders like Jack, who take what we're trying to do and push that down to the site level and make it something that's important and part of what they're doing on site and through their work at home teams, is really, really important.
Great. No, that's good to hear. Good to hear. Thank you both for that. So Jack, coming to you for this next question. As you look at contact center operations in the US, can you talk about the impact some of these programs have had on agent performance?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we obviously get our best performance out of employees when they are engaged. And engaged employees, usually a productive employee. And the more we can get them engaged in these types of programs and the day-to-day things that Bridgett's team kind of leads us in, it spills over culturally to team activities, to team competitions, and to other site-wide and company-wide programs. So it's just vitally important to us at the site level to have the culture that we're looking for. One thing that we do are employee satisfaction surveys a couple times a year. We ask our employees what we're doing well, what we can do better. And we really take a lot of time and include a lot of people across the organization to come up with game plans and action items to make sure our employees heard what they said, or make sure that we heard what our employees said, and so that they can see us making an attempt to improve upon those things. We take those very serious, and along the way between surveys, we don't go 6 months or so without checking in. We do little mini surveys, if you will, to find out, hey, are the things we're doing being, recognized? Are they providing the impact that we want them to provide? So that way, if they are great, we just keep building on them. And if they're not, we can, fail fast, if you will, and try something different to make sure that they are having an impact on, how our agents feel. So overall, I mean, just, people want to be happy, people want to perform well, and we have to find a way to make them feel included. And these kind of programs really help do that. When their peers and their friends participate, they usually do too.
Great. No, thank you. And question for you, when it comes to sharing employee satisfaction survey results with brands, should BPO buyers out there expect their BPO vendors to share those results?
As a vendor and partner, to our clients, it's our responsibility to give feedback to them. We're not just here to do everything they say to do and kind of keep everything black and white. And we're a partner with them, so I think it's important that we let them know what that frontline employee is feeling. In many cases, the feedback we get is particular to what the customers are saying, which we can't always impact, or maybe what the systems that our clients have, what they like and don't like about them. So yeah, I think it's really important, that we're a partner that will share those things and not just bring them, hey, here are the things that, we're having trouble with or that our employees are frustrated with, but to bring them to them and bring them solutions along with it. Again, we take a lot of time to try to, dissect everything that they say and everything that they need. And I think only, we would only be a good partner if we're taking those things back to our clients and, trying to come up with solutions for those things.
Great. So before we wrap up this section on programs that drive positive CX results, anything else you want to add, Bridgett or Jack?
Well, I mentioned earlier that there's a really big push for mental health programs. So I would recommend that you check in on that, make sure that you're taking advantage of things that are offered through your insurance providers, like counseling sessions, gym memberships, even like spa days. You can have sessions with experts, you could exercise. There's just so many options out there. You don't want to leave those on the table, especially when people are being very vocal about the fact that that's what they want.
Mhm. Oh, that's great. That's great. And I think we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but this is a question that came in from a registrant. When you think of services and support that BPO vendors should be providing to their agents with a focus on mental health, are you finding that it's become a requirement, or are there BPOs out there who perhaps aren't providing this level of support?
Well, I hate to speak for the masses, but if they're not doing it, they need to be. It's important, and it's easy to get access to it. Again, it's right there. There are so many providers, so many platforms and services that you can easily just pull out, and just by sharing a link or a phone number, you can really have an impact on the way those agents are feeling, and show them that you care about their mental health and about the things they're asking for.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we should care about people, and we really do here. So we should be doing everything we can do and recognizing everything we can recognize to be able to help them. These kind of things are at the forefront of that. But also for your business. I mean, if I'm thinking of it as a site leader, financially, I can't afford to lose people who are unhappy and not really take care of them and make sure they're feeling that we care about them culturally. So vitally important to make sure that we're keeping an open mind and doing everything we can do for our employees.
Thank you both, Jack and Bridgett. We're now going to transition to talking about Gen Z and how to build an agent experience specifically for that generation. Currently, Gen Z accounts for 32% of the world's population and 40% of American consumers. As employees, their expectations from the companies they work for are a bit different from millennials and Gen X. Bridgett, coming to you first for this one, how do you best configure an employee strategy to match the wants and needs of Gen Z?
Yeah, I was reading the other day that 58% of Gen Z and 59% of the millennials that were surveyed are reporting feeling burned out at work. There's overwhelming evidence that they're living paycheck to paycheck. And so considering that when you're building out your strategy is really important. You need to look for things like ways for them to access their pay real time. There are a lot of new services out there. Gone are the days where you wait until your paycheck. You can do prepaid cards. You can do partnerships with Pay Active and others where those individuals can access the funds that they've earned real time. Another important consideration is looking at ways to offset some of the cost. We're coming through this pandemic time where people were at home. Now that they're starting to come back to the office, what transportation programs can you offer? What medical resources, what meal plans, what discount programs are available to kind of alleviate some of that financial burden and make it feel more rewarding to come back into the office and to stay with your company? Another thing that is hugely, wildly important for this group of people is development and career growth. So make sure you're taking advantage of opportunities to mentor, to build internal talent. That's done primarily with the help of teams of people dedicated to doing this. There's talent mobility teams and leadership development teams whose job it is to make sure that internal talent is being found and promoted and developed, that leaders, once they're in leadership roles, are being coached and developed into that next level and are set up for success and doing a great job. Engagement is important. We already talked about that. You have like this dispersed workforce now. You have this group of people that are at home. You have this group of people that are on site, and then you have these mixtures, kind of in there. So you have to work to make sure that your engagement strategies, that your benefit strategies, that everything you're doing resonates with both audiences, whether they're at home, whether they're on site, whether they're Gen Z, whether they're Gen X, because we do have a mixture of over 4 generations in the call centers, in the workforce right now. So it's really important to consider that when you're planning this out. Look for ways to connect to these people, right? You have a 30% segment that's Gen Z, but then that's 70% of somebody else. So you can't overlook that. You want to make sure that you're using pocket activities and common interests and generational groups, women, LGBTQ, minorities, volunteer work, all these things to connect to these different people to make sure that they're connected and engaged and happy with what you're doing.
Thanks for that, Bridgett. And can you talk a little bit about the importance of maintaining engagement in a virtual environment with agents that are, working from home from this generation?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something we couldn't have spoken about a couple of years ago because I would have had no basis for comparison. But we kind of learned through practice and through experience and through, fire over the past couple of years, how to keep that segment of the workforce engaged. It's different. You're not able to reach across the aisle and talk to them or sit down face to face. So you have to use your tools, Skype, WhatsApp, Zoom, Messenger, all of these different ways to make sure that you're still getting that communication. We've also had a lot of success with our work at home teams through social media, Facebook groups where there's games and prizes and lots of activities going on. That's been very successful for helping to keep that group active and connected to each other and to the business.
So Jack, at an operations level, can you talk a little bit about how you're driving engagement for Gen Z members?
Yeah, so first of all, I had to embrace social media myself. That was not something I was comfortable with. Maybe I'm getting older and kind of reluctant to do so, but I realized I had to, to be successful in this business the way things are going. So I had to try to think like them and teach my team to try to think like our employees. Gen Z has grown up with constant and immediate feedback and stimulation, if you think about it, through likes, comments, shares, all those things that, my generation, didn't have. So we have to create an environment here of fellowship and constant engagement. And we do that through chat rooms, through fun things that we try to do around the site, through using social media to show those things and get those work at home people participating in those things. And, they can share it with their friends and get likes and shares and all those kind of things. And again, the more engaged they are, the happy they are. So, we try to keep a close eye on their demeanor through their coaches and their trainers. So, studies have shown that many Gen Z workers are likely to change jobs as many as 10 times between 18 and 34. We don't want us to be one of those 10 times. So we really proactively try to, get a gauge on how they're feeling about things. And, we have to be proactive in recognizing that and not to let it happen. So, we do something called an early warning system where we try to recognize an at-risk employee as soon as possible. We look at their performance, how they're participating and engaging, or are they kind of withdrawing and, not being very active with their team and everyone. And then obviously through our conversations with them. And through some of these things, we've been able to keep our attrition at less than 8% monthly for the past 12 months. So we really think we've got a handle on how to look at things, how to recognize people who may not be happy and try to turn that around and even proactively make sure that they are enjoying their time here.
Great. Thanks so much, Jack. So before we move on to our next topic of discussion, any final recommendations for, BPO buyers out there who are looking for tips regarding how potential providers might be working with Gen Z?
Both Jack and I have teenage sons, and we've talked about this before, the need that they have for competition and to play games and to make things fun. When Jack was talking about that, the immediate feedback and the likes and the need for that validation, just adjusting your coaching strategy and your performance, the way that, introducing a level of competition and an element of gamifying things that tends to work well for this generation.
Yeah, I would say you can't ignore it. You can't hope that, your culture is turning the right way to make sure that you're thinking of things the way you need to keep this generation, employed and happy on the job. I think you have to actively, proactively go out and try to find ways to make sure you're doing those things.
The next topic of conversation, we're going to focus on learning and development and how that impacts agent success. Bridgett, we came across a survey that indicated during the Great Resignation that 52% of employees that left their jobs did so because of a lack of development opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of making sure BPO providers are creating development opportunities for their agents?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's fascinating to read about that shift. Historically, we've always been looking at pay and hours as primary drivers of why people stay at a job or why they leave a job. But that's shifting and that's moving. And just like Jack said, you have to pay attention to these trends. You can't just hope you'll keep doing the same thing and get a different result. You have to understand that the needs are shifting and you have to shift with it. Specifically know that from our program since the pandemic, we've had 180% increase in participation in our developmental offerings. That's huge. I did mention earlier, we have this talent mobility team. We have these leadership development teams that we lean on heavily, but they're so popular and overwhelmed right now with the number of requests that come in each day. It's like we can't do enough quickly enough to meet the need. So investment in those teams and making sure that you're building those out, that you're budgeting the money to grow those teams, and that you're making sure those teams are delivering content that resonates with the people. What do they want? So you can't just throw out resume 101 and assume everybody wants that. You want to ask the questions, what are you looking for? It comes through those surveys we talked about earlier. We've got these 5 courses, which 3 are the most interesting to the larger segment, and kind of prioritizing that work and how you divvy that out. You also have to vary your delivery. So now more than ever, people are used to doing things kind of on their own time and adjusting what they're doing and the way that they're doing it to their learning style. So you want to have visual options, you want videos, you want in-person options through workshops, these little quick bursts that are 2 or 3 minutes at a time that you can do at various points through the day or week, just to kind of quick hit, get that information out there. Another huge thing is mentorships. Using that talent that you have internally and leveraging that to get a gain from your other employees is such a smart way to build the business. You're getting recognition, you're bolstering the employee who's being the mentor, and you're providing all that development and that attention and those skills to the mentee. So that's another place that I would really recommend that you focus your energy on, is building out those mentorship programs.
Oh, thank you. And question for you both, as far as this increase in demand for L&D opportunities, what do you think is driving that?
I think the partnerships that we need to have with our clients. Many of our clients are very involved. We have all this reporting that is available now to where we pretty much see everything an agent does throughout the day on the phone, how they're doing it, how long it takes them to do certain processes. And the more data we have, the more we're able to pinpoint where we can help that particular agent. So I just think, the reporting that is available and the involvement from these clients, they expect us to be able to recognize and then develop our agents to, improve in all these areas.
I think that goes back to generational differences too. You mentioned, Jack, they're changing jobs like 10 times. That's not something that we're familiar with or that we're used to. So I think that growth is part of the expectation and what they're looking for. And that's probably why they're dipping out on jobs when they feel like they don't see a career path, or they don't see a way forward, or it feels like kind of like a dead end, that people are jumping ship. So building out those paths and those skills, it's a win-win for everybody. It's just a smart way to move forward, especially with this generation.
Jack, what are some of the impacts that a strong agent development program are having in the contact center?
Well, so I can say very confidently, been in the industry for more than 25 years. And if there is a center that is struggling, I guarantee you structure and a lack of development are the main reasons. So, process is needed. Who's doing what, who's checking what they are doing, and if they're doing it effectively, who's checking checkers. It doesn't just happen. You really have to work at it. And, I think first of all, bar has to be established for everyone. Way too often I found this bar is too low, or there are assumptions that the bar is being met. And development can't happen consistently or effectively in that type of environment. We develop our leaders to be able to develop their agents. So we have processes to make sure that happens. This includes lots of coaching at all levels. And without these processes and checking them at all levels, it will definitely break down. But when it's in place consistently and development is happening at all the time, then the culture for development is set and the bar is raised. So without the development, I don't think you can have a successful call center.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And before we jump into the next topic, any final thoughts on learning and development in the contact center?
I think it's just an important note to call attention to the fact that in any entry level position, you're going to have those high potential employees. You can see them being leaders, being successful right out of the gate. It's important to recognize those employees early and get them on a career path again before they decide to change jobs or they go somewhere that they feel more fulfilled. So having that focus on high potential employees is really important.
Yeah, that really starts with our recruiters, believe it or not. They meet with with our trainers for every new hire group that we get and discuss. Hey, this one has this background, this one has this experience, or this one did a great job, during the interview or whatever the case is, and it carries right through into training to where our trainers then meet with our ops team and talk about which ones they're recognizing. And I think there just has to be that that discernment at all levels and the willingness to be a team and make sure we're passing that on from team to team as a new hire passes through the stages. But good point, Bridgett. It has to be recognized early on. You don't want to miss anyone early.
Thank you both. So the next area of conversation is going to be driving agent engagement in at-home environments. Now, we all know when COVID first began, the quick transition to work at home was a must for all BPOs. But now that we've leveled out in terms of COVID infections, Jack and Bridgett, question for you both. What is the current consensus that you're hearing from clients as far as work at home goes?
So as far as my side and my clients, I think we see a willingness for them to be at home, where maybe, as you said, pre-COVID, that wasn't really an option in most cases. I think they're willing to do it as long as we're giving them the performance they need. We've been able to do a really good job at doing that, and then to proactively bring someone back to site if they're not hitting the numbers that they need to hit. It's important for us to that our clients don't see a difference between a work at home employee and an on-site employee. There should be no difference in their production. There should be an improvement in quantity of hours and calls answered, but we really want it to be a seamless thing for our clients and for them not to have any concern whether they're at home or on site. We will take care of them and their customers the same either way.
And, I think that varies a little bit based on region. We have operations in a lot of different countries, and some are much more comfortable with the work at home platform than others. In the US, it's here to stay. I feel confident saying that, but in other regions, they're kind of lagging behind. So The answer to this, like everything else, is it depends, but do expect some variation between countries and preferences.
Got it. Thank you. And when you think about driving agent performance in work at home environments, what are some of the best practices?
I'm just really stubborn when it comes to eye-to-eye contact, not just in our personal conversations, but definitely with our coaching conversations. Nothing replaces eye-to-eye contact. We really work hard to make our work at home experience as close as possible to our work on site experience. So, a few best practices to make sure we do that, video meetings. We can do them one-on-one, we can do them as a team. But still engaged. We see everybody's face, everybody's eyes. We do chat rooms, which obviously is not eye to eye, but it's still, immediate feedback back and forth from the agent to the coach. And these things really help us stay consistent with, clear expectations, kudos where kudos are needed. Like everybody needs a pat on the back. And, sometimes if they're not in the site, we can't just yell across the site and congratulate them like we would have done, years ago. So it helps with quick coaching. And it just overall just really helps with the feeling of involvement and being engaged. So it really ends up being almost exactly like sitting in the contact center again, which is our goal.
Jack, when you said the shout outs, that doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in person to make somebody feel recognized or to give them a big shout out. You can do that through social media. You can do it in those chat rooms and still do things that make them feel connected. And one thing that Jack has done, I know, that has been wildly successful is sending prizes and rewards to people's doors. So you want to talk about a little bit about how you do that, Jack?
Yeah, we probably not unlike most people who had employees sent home within the last couple of years. We had to learn. We listened to our surveys, and sometimes obviously those work at home people feel a little left out, if you will. So we've really worked hard to make sure that doesn't happen. And to go back to something we were talking about earlier, or something you just mentioned, Bridgett, the shout outs. Obviously that started the term shout out with actually shouting out, but with these generations coming through now, a shout out is just recognition. So when they get recognition on social media and all their friends and family see those things, that's just as, if not more effective as an old school shout out, if you will. And another thing that, we kind of started doing a couple years ago was door dashing at home. We will send our top performer for the day lunch the next day and have it sent to their door. And, little things like that just really, again, you're able to show appreciation and hopefully, change some of their feelings of, being here alone in my home, doing this job for 8-10 hours a day. So we try to, again, make it as much like being on site as we can. And, we found that door dashing and sending them food or sending them gift cards or prizes or whatever else we can do, helps do that just a little bit better.
I love that. And when you do it, we always see it on the reverse. We see those people posting, little selfies with their gift cards or with their bagged lunches or their pizza. They appreciate it. It resonates. It works. And we know that because they're telling us that it does. And I think that's an important thing to call out here too. When you're connecting, you do mimic the environment. You do want to make sure the recognition is consistent, but you also don't want to forget that, to Jack's point, there is no substitution for face-to-face. Extroverted people especially need that connection and that opportunity to meet in person. So whether that's events at the site that they're invited to, dinners with their team, at least make it an option so that people who want that are finding it through your company.
All right. Thank you so much, Jack and Bridgett. And now we'll transition to a really brief Q&A. One of the questions that's come in is, many BPOs are reporting high levels of attrition as agents are being asked to come back to the contact center. How are you managing this at IBEX?
Well, so I can speak to my contact center, my clients in particular. We've not been asked by our clients so much to bring people back. I think they're pretty happy with the work we're doing for them, but the people that we have brought back along the way and will continue to are typically, those guys who just can't get the performance where we need it to be. And at that point, at the point where we would be bringing them back on site after being at home, we would really spend a lot of time coaching them and helping them and, dissecting the reports like we talked about earlier and trying to help them, improve their performance. So as far as, my experience is concerned with it, they're being brought back, not surprising to them, but because of performance more so than our clients driving it.
I don't think that's always the case. I think there is a set of people, especially in different regions, outside the US, who want to work on site, that look forward to that appreciate the connection and the perks. We assume that everybody in the world has Wi-Fi. They don't. And sometimes it's a burden to try to provide that at your home or to have a workspace at your home. So I think that depends. It can be a driver, but it can also work in the opposite way. There are people out there who are looking for that connection and that ability to work on site.
Yeah, that's a great point. We've had numerous people who tried it at home, or maybe they never tried it at home because they wanted to be engaged. They wanted to, to sit with their team and their friends and take their breaks with their friends and just really be involved and get away from home, if you will, a little bit each day. Lots of people don't have a quiet spot at home. So yeah, it can go either way, and it's really individualized.
Yep.
Great.
Agreed.
Great. Thank you. And with that, I think it's time to wrap up the webinar. Thank you for joining us for how a great employee experience boosts contact center performance. Again, we are IBEX, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.